It's an honor for us that Sri Sankarnath Goswami, Managing Director and CEO of Media Lab Asia, is with us. He has over 32 years of experience in the field of project management and as profit center head in diverse fields such as studio and broadcasting, communication, control systems, information and communication technology applications, and multimedia. He is engaged in bringing benefits of ICT in healthcare, education, and livelihood generation to common man. Sri Goswami has received national awards a number of times. Sri Goswami successfully led a team to develop IT-based hardware and software solutions for braille education in Indian language for the visually impaired. He had initiated development of multimedia-based software for education of hearing impaired children and software for language skill development for children affected with autism. Now I invite Sri Goswami to deliver the address. Sir.
Good morning, everybody. I apologize for the delay, and I understand from Mr. Ramki that some of my time has already been eaten up. So I would like to go through my presentation as quickly as possible. We are talking about rural India. Now, rural India, as we find that it is absent from World Wide Web. When we say that, we also realize that some statistics, some data may be available in some of the websites, but the real action is not formatted, and it is missing from the World Wide Web platform. And ICT can act as a great enabler here, and it's a huge unstructured market. And we also see that in the next 5-year plan, 11th 5-year plan, there is an emphasis on decentralization of administration to panchayat level. PPP model is being accepted for growth, and there is emphasis on socially improvement of socially disadvantaged groups. To prepare the rural India to bring to World Wide Web, we need to understand on-the-ground activities from practitioners, cluster requirements based on sector, age, size, and location. What is the current ICT usage there, and barriers to ICT adoption, and ICT solutions for cluster growth. In Media Lab Asia, we are aware of these things, and we are preparing ourselves to embrace the development needs of rural India more and more. If we see village information system, then basically we are talking about the livelihood metrics here: food security, education security, health security, infrastructure and services security, social security, emotional security, things like that. And if we try to translate that, like an example, food security means income generation opportunities, demand for information on employment opportunities, demand for information on employment from government and other agencies and things like that. In health, we must provide opportunities in the village itself and create opportunity in the village, provide information on immunization details and history and things like that. And after that, we need to prepare different village profiles, like demographic profiles, then wealth ranking and livelihood options profile, infrastructure profile. These are just examples. And, we need to prepare, format the information on our villages in this manner. And what Media Lab Asia is trying to do is not infrastructure, not G2C. That is the forte of our national e-governance plan. We are focusing on content and personalized services. Media Lab Asia started with this thought that the shared area is a digital village with world computer, bits for all, and tomorrow's tools. And later on, it was placed in a different manner, giving emphasis to application areas, mainly healthcare, education, livelihood, and together with empowerment of disabled and rural broadband connectivity. When I say rural broadband connectivity, it is not, again, we are trying to create infrastructure there. We are touching that part of the connectivity which is required to take the application to the village, to the last mile. And of course, the canvas is broad. The focus is on content and development of Android devices. Mr. Deshpande is here. After Computer, Mobilis has come. So I've seen Mobilis recently at IIT Kharagpur, and some work on low-cost computing device is again being talked about in every forum of this digital development. In our country, some work is being done by Mr. Deshpande, some work has been done in Chennai, some in Hyderabad. We are also trying to formulate something like that. Now, what Media Lab Asia is trying to do in healthcare, healthcare is an important activity for us because we think that if we provide good healthcare, then in turn it helps in reducing the rural indebtedness. And most of our villagers are not insured, though in this year's budget speech it has been said that the target is about insuring 1.5 crores of farmers or farming families. So some effort is being done, but we are also trying to reach technology in whatever manner we can. So our concentration is on telemedicine, health information management system, and handheld devices. We have with IIT Kanpur a telemedicine software, Sehat Sathi. The USP is open source software. This is this has Indian language interface, and doctor himself can develop the interface builder kit depending on the disease he is specialized in treating, and also the patient base. And it can also have this store and forward facility. At the front end, paramedics or non-medico can operate the system, and the experts are there at the back end. And this is field tested and ready for large-scale deployment. But there are, to my knowledge, already 8-9 different telemedicine softwares in the country, and we are yet to establish a commercial telemedicine network anywhere. So whatever telemedicine software are there, I think a time has come to go to the next level, to bring it to a mature level of network. And of course, we should also look for other methods of treatment. We know that allopathic doctors are not available in so many numbers in rural areas, but there are other Ayurveds, homeopaths, and Unani methods of treatment, and they are also recognized by government. They practice in rural areas in any case. So why can't we bring them to the fold of telemedicine? That is one thing we are discussing at Media Lab Asia. And we have developed a handheld device for health data collection and health education and training. We are also developing a NEXT-based microfluidic delivery system. We are starting with an insulin pump. I think within the next 12 to 18 months, it will be put on pilot testing phase. Here are some of the telemedicine projects we are experimenting on. One is with Wi-Fi, one is with Wi-Fi and satellite, one is we are using Akshaya network at Kerala, one is using other wide area network, and of course one health management information system. In education, we are going by what has been mentioned in the 11th five-year plan document, and there in 4 categories. In pre-primary, we are developing multimedia content in local language. Some of it we have already learned from Professor Kriti. Mr. Anandakrishnan is going to tell us more details about it tomorrow. And other than that, we have taken up 2 or 3 other projects in this category. In primary, we are basically targeting the requirement of National Institute of Open School and trying to make courses available to school dropouts. I know that internet is not available at this moment, but by the time we develop this courseware and make a mature model, BSNL will definitely take the broadband to those areas. And in secondary and higher secondary, the emphasis is on creating virtual labs. We are working with IIIT Hyderabad, CDAC Pune, and some other institutions. And in vocational training, currently we are identifying the skills in the plan document for 11th five-year plan. You will find that there is a mention that in China there are 4,000 different vocational skills available, and the number is not that many in our country. So a study is presently being conducted, and I think in another 6 months' time we'll come up with the list, and then we'll go for making the content of those courses. These are some examples. I think due to paucity of time, I think I have to skip. There is one intelligent tutoring system for rural children. This is this brings two different types of information together. One is subjective information from teacher, and at the back end of a learning management system, the computer collects information about how a person is following the course, and collating these two, the computer advises how the student should, how the training should be imparted to the student. This is being done in association with IIT Kharagpur and IIT Bombay. In livelihood generation, again, we have a large canvas: agricultural and farming services, deployment of CAD, village centers, things like that, GIS, rural BPO, and we are at the moment concentrating on national upscaling of agricultural and farming services, because quite a few of our projects, they have shown great promise. We have already learned about Aqua. There is eSagu as well from IIIT Hyderabad, about which Dr. P.K. Reddy will tell you more tomorrow. And in deployment of CAD also we are doing a lot of work. We are talking to people about GIS and creating a village center. This is just to show the diversity of different aspects of agriculture and farming services we need to address. Let's skip this one. Isagu and Aqua, when they are put together, they form a unique combination. In one project, the scientist is going to the farmer, and in the other, farmer is coming to the scientist. And in Isagu, as you see in the lower picture, scientists sitting in the laboratory can see the infestation of insects on the leaf of a crop, and they can zoom to see what type of insect it is, and then advise the farmers. And in case of emergency at the laboratory, a battery of experts can come together to advise the farmer the right remedy for his calamity. This we have already discussed. There is another project at IIT Bombay, that is polysensors for testing the water quality, pH, electrical conductance, total dissolved solids, salinity, chloride, nitrate ion. They have come up with a set of strips, very low cost, disposable strips. So that is adding value to this product. It can be made available at a very low cost to the farmers. And recently we have taken another project, AgroSense, which is a mode-based wireless mesh network to monitor parameters like temperature, humidity, rainfall, wetness of soil, so that the farmer can manage and maintain his agricultural production better in terms of soil nutrition and weather information. This is a project which IIT Kanpur did for Krishi Vigyan Kendras. There is a matrix, and as you select a matrix, it will tell you details about different items like arar, chana, moong, matar, like that. This is also been packaged together in our offering for agricultural services. They are CAD tools. We have applied this for chicken curry in Lucknow and carpet design at Bhadoi. And as we all very well understand, this CAD can be applied in many other handicrafts and other rural designs. So we are also we have taken up a project to identify such cases, and I think we will come up within the next 6 months about a better upscaling model for these CAD tools. And in empowerment of disabled, we have quite a few projects, mainly with IIT Kharagpur, National Association for Blind, and Weather Mediatronics, and companies like that. The main issue is to bring these disabled people to mainstream, and education, rehabilitation, and communication. These are the areas what we are addressing. In a Braille, computerized Braille transcription system provides text-to-Braille facility in 13 Indian languages and Braille-to-text facility, reverse of text-to-Braille in 13 Indian languages. There is a special Braille keyboard having only 16 keys, and it can be connected to a computer along with a normal QWERTY keyboard. So a visually impaired person with a braille keyboard can work in parallel with a normal person. So they themselves can work together to input data in text and braille. And for output, there is a manual low-speed braille embosser, and there is a variety of braille press quality high-speed embossers. And other than that, there is a self-taught braille teaching CD, that is Easy Braille. And then using this braille keyboard, eight students can attend electronically using a computer to in a classroom to whatever tutorials teacher tells them to do. And of course, we all know whatever information is collected, they can be archived, and the benefits of the same. In e-library, one librarian assigns braille text material to a blind person. So 8 such blind persons can access one computer and read different texts at their own speed. This can be a very good system for district libraries, every blind school, places like that. Then we have Sanjog, pictorial communication for cerebral palsy. Here the teacher can play with the grid, the background color, the icons, picture icons, the text, and audio of the text. And there is a whiteboard on the top of the screen. There the text can be generated using the icons. Shruti Drishti is another system for reading conference proceedings in Braille, and a blind person can select some of the passages, and they can be printed in Braille as well. We have come up with a digital library for e-text, Braille, large print, and audio content. This we are doing with National Association for Blind. Then there's some of the tools, screen access for all. Till date we have only in English. We have already tried in Bengali and Hindi, and of course an English module is also there with Indian English accent. And there is a device, voice output communication device, Vani, that we have developed for cerebral palsy children and temporarily disabled persons who cannot speak. And there is a smart game project also. And then there is a project in Kerala where sitting in a studio we are covering quite a few schools, special schools for disabled people. And this is the recent project which we have taken up, and along with Rehabilitation Council of India, here we are going for a very large interactive portal which will house National Disability Register, online courses through learning management system run by RCI. They run about 60 different courses, and which are normally taken by about 5,000 persons every year. And there will be a repository of braille-ready text, audio files. Audio files will be in DAISY format, and there will be list of social justice offices. There are about 235 of them. Their details. Special schools. There are about 650 special schools. There are 3,000 NGOs and 28,000 special educators. Information about them will be there. And all government policies, schemes, circulars related to disabled people will be there, and the availability of assistive devices and its details, and other programs of RCI. In rural connectivity, we have broadband through optical fiber and Wi-Fi networks. We have radio browsing and community radio. I do not know whether Ms. Mubarak is there, Ms. Kitangani Mubarak. Last year I was in Sri Lanka, invited by them, and there I found that a very good experiment is being done somewhere in the middle of Sri Lanka. We will hear more about them from Ms. Mubarak, and we are trying to do similar things in India. And this is a 1 to 3 point Wi-Fi based connectivity. This has been developed at IIT Chennai. The technology is now being transferred for commercial production. Ashwini centers are being installed by Bayaju Foundation in East Godavari, West Godavari and Krishna districts of Andhra Pradesh, and they are using this Wi-Fi network which has been developed at IIT Chennai and IIT Kanpur. They are offering these services already and adding to the list of services. Our president visited one of these centers about a year back. There is a picture of one of the centers. This is another experiment, multi-hop Wi-Fi network, what was done in UP around Kanpur some years back. This is being replicated elsewhere in the country. And this is a digital store and forward communication, offline internet application. This has been successfully implemented in Karnataka, and we are trying to package this equipment in such a manner that we can put it in other modes of transport also. That work currently is going on. So doing all this, there will be a village center. If you go through the National E-Governance Plan, this VLE, the fourth tier, is considered now to be manual, but we find that there is so much of information around that it cannot be manual. It has to be automated, and all the information will have to come to a village center, and that should be connected to a rural BPO, and connectivity as and when the connectivity is established there. This will be the fourth tier, and on this we are working on seriously. We are in touch with the NEGP program, and we are coming up with new services. Our company is a not-for-profit company. It has two components. One is development, that is proof of concept and pilot testing that we do with our own fund, and we are encouraging deployment through PPP model. 2-3 projects are already in hand, and more are on the design board. So we are working through a national network of research laboratories. So currently we are tied up with about 45 institutions in the country, and about 5 international, 5 foreign universities are talking to us. We are establishing this relationship. As I said, we are not in infrastructure, we are not in G2C, but we are coming up with personalized services and we are developing content for rural India. Some of the national deployment initiatives, some of the development work which we are focusing on. So it is at the end, it is a large canvas. So there is room for everybody, and if we can work together, we can do a lot for rural India. When Media Lab Asia was created in 2001, and the concept might have been new, but now there are many such foundations. I think at least 25 or 30 of them, but they are either in a sectoral work or they are addressing some particular function. But we are with a national mandate, and we have the full support of Ministry of Information Technology. So we can work together. So thank you for your time, and I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to address you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. C. Murali Krishna Kumar is the advisor in the Planning Commission. He has completed his PhD from IIT Madras. He is having over 25 years of experience under various capacities. He joined Department of Electronics in 1985 and served in STQC Directorate. He was the project director of Project Impact for creating of industry-ready manpower in the Manpower Development Division of DIT. Currently, he is working as advisor in the Planning Commission as head of Information and Communication Technology Division and Science and Technology Division. Now, I would invite to deliver the address.
Good morning to each one of you, or rather good afternoon, just we are past noon. And I understand my position being the last speaker. I guess it's very difficult for me to hold the interest levels high, but I try to do justice to the position given, and I assure you that I have enough vitamin M stored in my slides, which will keep each one of you very enthused and stick to the presentation. The last 4 years, the country has been experiencing a great revolution, and it's become a land of opportunity. And the new mantra is public-private partnership. Whatever activity we want to do, we want to involve the private enterprise and entrepreneurs also. And it's the fourth largest economy and a safe place to do business, with liberal and transparent investment policies in place and highest returns on investment. We love to compare ourselves with China time and again, and we can see that we have done better than China in this particular year. And there's a long-term sustainable competitive advantage and high growth rate economy. All these indicators have given us ample opportunities to think big, act big, and do big things. And the magnitude of challenge which we face, as India is a very vast country, and India basically lives in rural places, and there is a challenge to provide infrastructure which can propel India and meet the objectives of the 11th plan, which is inclusive growth, most faster and broad-based inclusive growth, which we have charted for ourselves. The power generation, roads, transmission and distribution, and ports, railways, all these infrastructure-related projects are huge in nature, and there is an ample opportunity for each one of us to contribute and be part of this grand vision. Now, to achieve faster and more broad-based and inclusive growth, what is that we need to do? In my opinion, I think unless we have village plan as the focal point, as the epicenter of growth, things which we want to put in place, probably will not be able to achieve a great success level. And to do this, we need to treat every village as a knowledge center. Now let us understand what are the needs of a village and what is that we can do to address some of them and how we can address them. Food and nutritional security, water, employment, education, health, these are all required to make the village a knowledge center. And we need to create good infrastructure and habitations so that people can live, housing and shelter for livestock and as well as for the human beings living there is very essential. We need communications in the form of roads and access to markets and funds to do business. To realize these needs, village needs to be looked at it as a knowledge center, as I said. And the basic cardinal principles here are that social inclusion, gender equality, and reaching the unreached. One of the technologies which is now available with us, which can give us the advantage and reach the unreached, is using the information and communication technologies, which not only provides the information but also empowers every individual with the information and knowledge which is available out there, so that each one of them can participate and get their dreams fulfilled. There is a famous slide which President keeps talking about, PURA, providing urban facilities in rural areas. This is the ultimate vision, wherein you provide the physical connectivity, and then the second layer would be the electronic connectivity, third one would be economic connectivity, and last but not the least is the knowledge connectivity, which is required to be provided to make every village a knowledge center. Now I said we need to aim at reforming and starting our reforms at the village centric, and we need to do it at the village level. And what should be the plan which is required to be put in place to convert these villages into a knowledge center? Who are they? What are the requirements of the village? What exactly do you mean by food security or water security, livelihood security? These aspects need to be understood first and then addressed. There is a number of initiatives which the government is taking, and the 11th plan takes these initiatives which have been put in place much faster and forward. And I have just given a few of them here, basically addressing the regional imbalances issue and trying to make sure that we bridge them to the extent we can. National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, Bharat Nirman, which is specifically to address the rural infrastructure requirements. Nationwide coverage of Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan to make sure that every child goes to school and has basic minimum education. Rural Health Mission, expanded integrated child development scheme, midday meal scheme to retain the children and give them nutritional values. Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. The first phase, there is a plan to take into account the 63 identified cities and convert them into high-class cities by providing all the urban amenities and infrastructures which is required. And the Backward Region Grants Fund to fill the gaps for development of backward areas. There is a special plan for Bihar, which is one of the most backward states in the country, and restructuring plan for Jammu and Kashmir and Manipur. The kind of funds which we are talking about, I've just got the figures for 2006-07. National Rural Employment Scheme, it's around 14,300 crores. And during the 11th plan, it's going to go much far bigger. And Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan is around 10,000 crores. National Rural Health Mission, Jawaharlal Nehru Mission, they're all in that region. And the least one is Integrated Child Development Services, which is around 4,000 crores, which we have spent during 2006-07. And 7-8, which is the first year of the 11th plan, has bigger ambitions, and the budget is much bigger. The Bharat Nirman, which I said is a time-bound action plan for building rural infrastructure, has 6 components: rural irrigation, rural drinking water, rural roads, rural housing, rural electrification, and rural ICT connectivity. And the total fund which we are talking about is 176,000 crores spread over a period of 4 years. And most of these activities are going to take place in the PPP mode. So there is a possibility for every one of us to take part in this initiative and contribute. Now, so much of initiative is being taken, there is no scarcity of policy interventions. Funds are being provided, there is a willingness of participation both at the national and local level, but still the benefits don't reach the targeted masses most often. Why? Probably we need to rethink in the way we are trying to implement the programs and come out with innovative delivery system and delivery mechanisms. The resource allocation as on date has been top-down in its approach in a broadcast manner, sprinkle and pray, hoping that at least some of the seeds which we have spread around will yield results. We need to innovate, and technology application needs to be put in place not only for delivery of the programs and schemes, but also to monitor them and bring an element of transparency into their application, so that the overall ambience level and the confidence level of the implementers is high, and we are sure that the intended benefits are being accrued to the people to whom they are meant for. So the solutions which we are trying to work on are to move from centralized to decentralized planning, and we need to transform village, and as I said, every village needs to be looked at as a knowledge center. For these, we want to use information and communication technologies not only for implementation and delivery, but also to monitor these programs. And it's the best suited technology, as we all know. It can address many of our programs and projects and areas of concern like health, rural productivity, education, e-governance, and others. Some of them I will try to cover and give you a glimpse of the kind of ICT solutions which we have already put in place and which we want to roll out. It's said that, in India we have got very good capabilities, and it's been a successful bet for pilot projects. But beyond beyond the pilot project stage, majority of the programs don't take off, and we're not in a position to implement the good pilots which we have put in place. I think 11th plan gives us an opportunity to put at rest this kind of an aberration and try to see that some of the successful pilots which we have put in place, we can roll them out across the country and make sure that the benefits are accrued to the end customers. Now the government has put in place a number of initiatives, especially for e-governance. There is a national e-governance action plan which has been put in place, which is aimed at being provided. The initiatives are to be put in place for over a period of 4 years, which contains 27 mission mode projects, both at the center as well as the state level, and a couple of core infrastructure projects like statewide area network SWAN and common service centers and state data centers, things like that, which are essential for any application you want to run at the state level or at the central level. And for the rural infrastructure, as I said, Bharat Nirman NER NGP, National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, is already in place. And for education, the Department of Information Technology has already put in place two very successful programs called Vidya Vahini for schools, where 140 selected schools in 7 districts have been identified, and these solutions have been tried out and they are working very well. And the Ministry of Human Resource Development has a major initiative now going on called ICT in schools, where the proposal is to first connect secondary and senior secondary schools and then come down to the middle schools and primary schools, and probably in the next plan, 10th, 11th plan, or by the end of 12th plan, we should have every school on the net and connected, and the content made available in the local language which is relevant to them. And to empower the citizens and make the services available to them, the DIB has already had put in place the community information centers in the northeastern states. Around 480 blocks have been selected, and each block we have provided these community information centers, which are working very well. And the same concept is now being rolled over across the country in the form of common service centers, which is basically in the PPP mode. There are about 100,000 rural common service centers which have been envisaged, one for every 6 villages. Thereby, by the end of the implementation period, we hope that all the 600,000 villages in the country can have access through a common service center, which is either present in the same village or in the adjoining village. That's the concept. And for health-related initiatives, lot of telemedicine, tele-network, telehealth care centers have been established. And I'll just cover them also in the next few slides. So trying to cover the e-governance initiative, what is that we want to put in place? Most often, majority of the projects, we try to put the solutions what is available at our end, but not taking into account the requirements of the citizens or what is required for the citizens. Every one of us, either as part of a citizen or as a farmer or a medium industry or a large business house, we need to interact with the government at various stages. Let us see what is it like. As an urban citizen, probably on an average in your lifetime, you may have to interact more than once with 10 departments. And as a farmer, 40 interactions with 8 departments. Similar is the case if you are a medium enterprise industry or a large business houses. And with so many interactions at various timelines, is there a possibility for us to streamline these activities? Well, one issue is that everybody feels that e-governance is the mantra, and by the time I implement my e-governance initiatives, it becomes a paperless office, or we can move into a paperless office. But if we can't move into a paperless office, at least the paper chase should become extinct. That's the first step we need to look at and try to achieve that. If paper chase is minimized or eliminated, I think we are achieved a great deal of growth and success, and paperless office is matter of time there. With so many interactions, how is that e-governance? What kind of e-governance solutions we need to build, which will provide us a platform to address all these issues? Let us see the business life cycle of an individual. At the previous slide where I had indicated that on an average you have to interact with a number of departments. This slide captures some of the elements right from the child birth. You require a birth certificate, you need to interact with a government establishment or an agency which provides you this. And as a student, you need school admission, you need examination results, you need to get your student identification, and then when you get into an employment, you have to register yourself for an employment, and you need a vehicle registration if you are planning to own one, and then need the driver's license for that. And probably if you are going abroad, passport and visa are a must. And then if you are with your family mode,